Today's workshop is cracking the content code, how to leverage AI and create content that generates qualified leads. So if you are a business owner who's looking to get more qualified leads, duh, most people would not say no to that question. And you know you could be leveraging AI to create content for your business, but you either don't know where to start or you are using AI, but you're not seeing results. Maybe you're getting the generic monotone, flat Chat GPT copy, or you're posting stuff, but you're not actually seeing leads come in or getting your target audience to reach out. This is for you. Now, I'm not just pulling all this out of my ass, I promise. I've been in the content game for 7 years, and I really love working with companies and leaders that have offers that I align with. And that has been everything from coaching companies, wellness products, meal prep services, supplement companies, live events, TEDx talks, personal development offers, law and legal stuff. Like it's really across the board. And that's what I think is so cool is the industry, the product or service could be different, but these principles that you're about to learn today are the same. And my real bread and butter, my real bread and butter is email. I've been doing a lot on copy for different social media platforms as well. But as you can see here, I've done over 10 million bucks in email marketing revenue generated for clients. So that's just 10 million from strictly email itself. And a couple of these clients actually had never made a buck from email and went to six figures. And two of them actually, I helped go from 0 to a million with email marketing revenue specifically. So, and we, even some of these smaller companies, coaches doing AK their first sale or launch to $500,000. So an example of that, my boy Joshua ran Edge Theory Labs. They brought me in pretty early on. They didn't really have much of an email strategy. They had a couple emails in a nurture sequence, but it really wasn't generating much. And so in the time I was there, I helped them generate 7 million bucks in email. And that's across their nurture sequence that we built out, the different sales and promotions, which as you can see here, this was a Black Friday one that did about $500,000. And then also abandoned cart. Again, so if you're a product or even if you have a service that has, a product that you're selling, probably low ticket because you wouldn't need a salesperson for that. So that's Josh. Corey came to me. He had no email strategy, nothing. And he was a fun one because we got in 12 months, 72,000 bucks. And that's just in sales that we ran, meaning, a 4th of July sale or a President's Day sale. And that's not even talking about the strategy that we did to our webinar to phone call to close strategy, which was part of our nurture sequence as well, and helped grow his list also to about 6,000 leads. So that's Corey. We got a product, we got a service, and then a meal prep company as well here that was not using email. And then we actually set up his nurture sequence and opt-in, which they didn't have prior to me. And then there was actually a glitch in his delivery, and all these people were coming in, but they weren't sending emails. We waited towards a sale, and then we actually generated the final number here was about $17,000 in monthly recurring revenue. So as you can see here, this wasn't even the final numbers, but it jumped over 30 accounts, which is about $17,000 a month in recurring revenue for his business. So if you don't know me, my name is Jake, and I'll give you the very quick 2-minute story on how I got into this space and got obsessed with storytelling and marketing in a way that actually converts and creates results for your business. Started down the traditional path, grew up in San Diego, thought college was, the next step as everyone I knew did that. Although I knew deep down I wanted to do something different. I felt conflicted going to school and spending all this time, money, and energy where I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to travel, but I was scared. And the long story short, as I got to school, I started experiencing pretty severe anxiety and depression. And this was over 10 years ago, or about 10 years ago. So, people weren't really like open about this stuff on social media. My skin was breaking out in hives and rashes. Didn't know the mind body connection back then. And I was really struggling. And I had this dream to go and experience different cultures and different ways of life, but I was terrified because no one I knew did anything like that. And I eventually took a leap of faith. A college career counselor actually asked me, what's the worst thing that can happen if you leave school? My mind thought I would be like a beggar on the streets. And I was like, okay, realistically, I probably that will not happen. I'm driven and I have family and friends. I could always crash on the couch if I need. Best case, and I like imagine myself traveling, volunteering, experiencing different cultures, and writing a book about my experience. And that is what I did. I hopped on a one-way flight to Guatemala with a backpack, no cell phone. I needed to get away from social media and about 3 words of Spanish: hola, baño, y gracias. That was about the extent of my Spanish. And I spent 4 months backpacking, volunteering throughout Guatemala, Nicaragua, Costa Rica. The journey changed my life. And I came home really passionate to share this message and story. And that became my book here, Off the Beaten Trail. I like to say it was a young dude version of Eat, Pray, Love meets Into the Wild with a happy ending. And I was so passionate to get my story out. And on one hand, the story is the story. On the other hand, I was like, okay, needing to learn about marketing and all that fun stuff. And so I started speaking at high schools and colleges around California and gave a TED talk, and then ultimately have now spoken on 6 different countries to over 15,000 people. I'm sharing my story. And this TED talk led to my foray into email marketing and online business. I met my business partner, Taylor, when I was 20 years old. We really hit it off, and he was coming out of a bankruptcy. And he's given multiple TED talks. So we teamed up. He kept getting asked how to do a TED talk. So we built a course, both of our first real foray into online business, and we had no idea what we were doing. But Taylor was already an experienced seasoned entrepreneur. I was a hungry 20-year-old kid who loved to write. And so that's kind of actually the natural progression. How I got into email is we first sold this online course that I built to, we had like the tiniest list, just the people we knew, and we made $6,000. And I was like, oh my God, we're having like stranger-ish people, like they know us, but like we're not like necessarily friends. Um, buy this $500 course built, then learned about online marketing, email list, running ads, and over the next 2.5 years, or 2 years, 2.5 years working together, did about $2.5 million in sales. Every one of those sales coming through the same process of lead magnet to getting these emails and booking a call and buying our program. So that completely changed my life. And then since then, I've gone on to work with different coaches and companies across various industries, obsessing with email marketing and different forms of content that can actually create results. And that's why I'm passionate about what we're diving into today. Now, obviously, the game has changed in the sense of like AI is here, it's here to stay, it's going to evolve. And so it's more for me a matter of how can I work with these tools to create content that's actually authentic. As I mentioned before, I think we all know, we all have a sixth sense when something is not authentic and written by Chat GPT and it's like very blah. And then the second part of that is, okay, it can be unique and authentic, but can it actually create conversions, right? If your content is not moving the needle, and whether that is generating sales calls for you, generating leads, or at least building know, like, trust, and intimacy with your potential client, then like, what's the point, right? We need to have that messaging match. So I've come up with 3 steps here that I've found to be really successful in effectively doing that and getting leads with content that's actually authentic and converts. And it's called the ACE framework. And we're going to start with the first one in that framework, which is audience clarity. Now, this is the foundation of your marketing, and it's always surprising to me, even some bigger companies. I actually ran into a friend the other week, and he was consulting for a $400 million a year company. So a humongous company. And they were having issues in their marketing, in their organic marketing, because they weren't able to convey the the essence of who they are, what they do, and connecting with their target audience, like mapping that with their creativity. And and almost every company that I work with, like there's always almost a block. And the reason there's a block is because all of us are so close to our business, right? And sometimes it's hard to understand your target audience when you're just like so close to it. You can't see the forest when you're in the trees. So the number one thing in the foundation of this strategy and just creating any content or any strategy online is to make sure that you have clarity on your audience so that your content can actually connect with that audience, building out your avatar. And I think this is really important whenever I'm working on a landing page, sales copy, email flows. Before I do any writing, I'm spending a lot of time researching, and I cannot emphasize this enough. And I think this quote from Abe, I believe this is Abe Lincoln, is a great way to convey this. Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 hours, or spend the first four sharpening the axe. Like, really let that land. Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first four sharpening the axe. And what I take away from this quote is preparation and research. Before we can, go for it, we have to like set ourselves up. And that is really the foundation here. Now, a lot of times people can get confused on, okay, but like, how do I do the research? And so I actually have this messaging clarity worksheet, which I'm happy to share with anyone. And every client that I take on, we will do this deep dive messaging and I'll walk them through this process. But this is actually a list of a bunch of questions that I'm asking them. And so if you want it, just send me a DM or a message wherever you're watching this, and I will send it to you. And then we're going to go into this here in a minute. But if you're wondering like who your audience is, a great way to do that or to understand the what your audience is struggling with, what their pain points are, what their hopes and dreams. Here's two great ways to call or great ways to start. One, your sales calls. Like, what are these clients and potential clients actually saying on a sales call? This is like incredible data for you. And then the second part of that I would say is survey. Like, every maybe you're familiar. There's a marketer, what's his name, Ryan Levesque, has the ask method, and it's so brilliant. Literally, just ask your current audience or your clients, and you can create a survey, a Google form, a type form. It doesn't have to be complex, but ask them what they're struggling with. I watched this video on the founders of Hush. They sold for 48 million, and this is like an amazing, I think, example of this, where they were selling these weighted blankets, and at first they had a lot of success in their first order, but then they had sales completely drop off in the summer. And what they found was that they were started calling all their customers. They had 3,000 customers. They called every single one. And what they found was that these blankets were causing them to sweat. And therefore, they didn't want to buy more or having issues because they didn't want to be sweating in the summer. So, what these guys did is they took that research and created the coolest fabric technology in the world and then started creating new blankets and new products from that, and it completely transformed their business. But each time they would create a new product, they would get on the phone with every one of their customers. And this was like the biggest takeaway from these guys who, sold their company for $48 million. So I can't emphasize enough how important it is to get just like real tangible data. And the best way to do that is ask. And I think, again, this is just like conveying that value of asking and understanding your audience, but how effective you are at speaking to your clients' pain points and how well you demonstrate you are their solution determines how effective your copy and content will be at generating calls and sales. So we're going to go into some of the AI strategies here in a second, but first, I just want to go over types of content. Now, this is especially relevant with email, but really, if you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, it doesn't really matter. These are the different kind of buckets of content that you want to be hitting and circulating, especially if you're running ads, you're doing retargeting ads, right? Like you want to make sure you're hitting all of these. So first one, kind of obvious, but social proof and authority. And by that, it's testimonials, it's case studies, it's client successes. You want to demonstrate that you have a track record, just as I did in the beginning of this presentation, right? I'm showing you actual proof that I'm not just like talking out of my ass, but I actually walk the talk. And so this is very important because it's one thing to trust copy and what someone's saying. It's another to trust other people's voice and other people's video testimonials of their own success with you. And then, again, authority. This is why oftentimes too on a website, you're going to see like logos and things like, they've been featured in Psychology Today or the Los Angeles Times, right? When we see this, we are consciously or unconsciously trusting this person because they have been, trusted by one of these big organizations that we trust. And a great way to do that, I also think in your marketing with content is showing, not telling. So you could be like, when Psychology Today asked to feature me, I learned this, funny thing. Again, you're like showing that Psychology Today featured you, but you're not like, I was on Psychology Today. Two, and this is like really with all of your content, right? Is you want to be preemptively addressing objections in your content. So like even different types of content you could do. One piece of content is about addressing a specific objection. And like this is almost like a reverse like FAQ section on a website where you're just like preemptively creating content on each of these things. And when you do this, right, you're building trust with your potential client because they already have these questions, whether they're conscious of it or not. And what's so powerful is as you do this, even if they're not conscious of it, especially when they're not conscious of it, this is where this like really is effective because you're building trust with them in an unconscious way where they're like unconsciously like trusting you because you're speaking to the things that they're thinking about, but not aware that they're thinking about. That was a lot of like using the word unconscious, but it's really powerful. And I've felt when it works on me because I'm just instantly like, oh my God, this person understands me. Education, right? And some of the posts that we can do on this is like myth busting, insights, offering different tools and resources. And this is the goal of this is demonstrating expertise, but also just like providing value to our target audience. Personal stories, philosophy. Certain brands are more do more of this than other brands and companies, but really we're in a world where like we don't just want to, for the most part, we don't want to just buy from someone or some company. We want to feel a connection. And so that's where when you talk about your story, your philosophies, who you are, what you stand for, your mission, this humanizes you and can build trust and intimacy with your potential clients. Positioning, this is, what is your unique value proposition? What is your methodology? Like, how are you differentiating yourself from your competitors? And this is really an important part to speaking to your ideal client. Now, this is like huge. This is so big. I can't like or overemphasize this enough. Your content is essentially doing two things, which is reframing and instilling beliefs in your prospect's mind, right? So if you have a methodology, you want your prospect to believe that this is the exact way so that when they do get to the sales page or buy with you, they've already had this pre-framed belief that your process works. And you do this in your marketing. And it's almost like when you do this effectively, especially if you have a high ticket product or service where someone has to get on a sales call to work with you, they are like frothing at the bit, ready to work with you because they have already gone through your pre-frame and they believe in their mind, heart, and soul that you have the answer to what they're looking for. And last but not least, our call to action, right? And this is you're throwing your right hook, whether it's getting on a call with you, you're bringing them to a workshop, you're giving them an audit, some sort of call to action where you're getting them to get in your sphere and have the opportunity to work with you. Now, a lot of times, this is like one of the biggest challenges I hear with people that I work with is like, okay, Jake, but like I don't actually know what to create content about. And so I'm gonna actually like share my screen here and show you an exact example. And there's a tool called Fathom. I highly recommend it. If you don't know, it essentially records, it's an AI note taker that you can pair with your Zoom calls. So every time you get on a Zoom call, and I'm going to show you an example here. So I had a call the other day with a woman who runs a product business and uses Klaviyo. And so every time I get off of a potential a sales call or like just like a connection call with someone who's interested in working with me, I will use the information I get on that call and make content about it. So here's an example. So I'll pull up Fathom. And so Fathom automatically creates all of this stuff in its like every time a call's finished, it comes up with key takeaways, topics, current marketing effects, talks about all these opportunities, but you can ask it a specific thing. And so here's what I asked. I said, what are the pain points or challenges that Allison is struggling with in her business? Based on the meeting, here are the key pain points and challenges. Lack of a comprehensive email marketing and strategy. She mentions they haven't set up proper emails, which is leaving a ton of potential revenue on the table. This was actually the reason she reached out to me because I was making content on this, but I'm getting like more verification that this is actually landing. Difficult accessing and analyzing customer data. This makes it hard to optimize marketing and product offerings. Without data, she could be leaving even more. This kind of fills into number one, but like leaving so much money on the table. And then production capacity challenges. That's not like totally in my sphere, but even just with these two, then I can now go in and create content based on that. And so I think the takeaway here is like think about what like use your sales calls and your conversations with clients and people who are interested in working with you. Like that is your data set. Like it's right in front of you. Now, another thing that I do, and I think this is just kind of like reviewing just classic success tips, is just modeling what works, right? Looking at high performing posts, emails, sales page, Facebook ads, and Facebook ads, you can look in the Meta library, um, and just look at like the structure and types of content that these people are doing. And then we're going to get into this here in a second, but it's like using Claude. Claude is my preference as an AI tool. I think it's better than ChatGPT for content. You can totally use ChatGPT, but you can kind of input it and use frameworks and then, feng shui it. And I'll get to this in a second, but a really big thing with using these tools right now is understanding that it's not going to, most times it's not going to give you a 100% perfect answer, but it could get you 50, 60, 70, 80%. And then you can sort of tweak and fine tune to embed your own unique, authentic marketing as well as points that will convert and like make it flow. Headlines, and again, you can ask ChatGPT, this is what I do, but this is kind of like the classic, right? How to blank in blank without blank. Example, how I generated 100 leads in 30 days without paid ads. And you'll notice almost every ad that you're seeing on Facebook or Instagram or Facebook is typically leading with something like this, whether it's verbal or it's written. So now let's get into some of the juice, the actual system and strategy to use AI to create your content. And so for me with email and social media copy, like I said, I use Claude and I'm going to give you guys an actual example of this. I'm not going to do it with one of my clients. I'm not going to show you that because obviously that's like my secret sauce and something I'll only really like dive deep into with actual clients. But I'm going to just show you like a personal example that I used. And so with these different tools, the key to succeeding with Claude or ChatGPT or whatever the content that you're creating is giving it the right input. Like as you can see here, the quality of your input determines the quality of your output. So the better and more specific information you can give to something like Claude or ChatGPT, the better that it's gonna spit out something that's in your voice, in your style, and into something that you want. So I'll share here my screen. So in Claude, there's something you can use. It's called a project. In ChatGPT, it's called a custom GPT. And you can embed this project. So you can see I have a bunch of different ones for some of my different clients. And then I have one for myself with my own marketing. And I had my assistant go in and copy, I think, 30 of my Facebook posts that performed. I think I gave him the barrier like anything that's above 15 likes, because I wanted to just make sure I'm choosing stuff that actually resonated. And then he uploaded those 50 or 30 posts here. And so now that the AI understands like my voice, it understands my tone, and I'm giving it examples of like my writing style. So literally for this training, I wrote a post and what I put it, and I'm going to show you exactly what I put. So I said, hey, can you please help me create a Facebook post in my voice to promote a live training? And then here was just a little bit of the info that I gave it. So it's not a lot. And then I have a guy in my industry who's like, he had like 60 people sign up for his live, and this was the post that he did. So I just asked it to model. Here's the structure of another post that did really well. So notice how I'm giving it an example of something that worked, asking it for specific information on my unique offering. And then it already has this preset data that I've given it in the project. And so it gave me like an amazing post. And this was like 85 to 90% done. And I just made a couple tweaks, but I was like, wow, this is like really good in my voice. And I leveraged the pain points that I've gathered from other business owners who are struggling with content, hence the reason for creating this workshop. So Claude is incredible. You can use ChatGPT as well. Now, like I mentioned, I'm not going to go super in depth with how I give Claude the specific information for like my clients because that's, what they're paying me for. But this is like enough to at least get you started to understand how you can give it input and work with it to get like quality output. So in terms of again, another content hack. And gosh, my email inbox is like sort of a mess. I have all these different folders, but I opt into email lists of all my competitors. And so when I work with a client, like for example, I have a client who's a relationship therapist. I opted into like the top 10 relationship therapists email inbox so I can see what kind of content that they're saying. They're leaders in the space and they're, making the most money in their business. So I'm trying to model what works. That's kind of a theme here. Now, in your content, I think this is like a really important point to note. Consistency over intensity. And this is actually something I learned from just my own meditation practice. I actually learned this at Rhythmia, which is an ayahuasca retreat center. And they were teaching about just the importance of showing up, a practice where you can actually show up and commit to is more important than the intensity of that. So, for example, for me, when I started, and I've been meditating on and off for 10 years, I kind of fell off the bandwagon. And then when I got back on, I was like, what's a number, a consistency that I can, or amount that I can consistently stick to that's not too intense? Meaning like the lowest barrier that I will actually stick to without giving up. And that was 10 minutes for me. So I started meditating 10 minutes a day. Now I'm up to 25 minutes. But the point is with your content, pick a number to start with that you will stick to that doesn't feel overwhelming. And maybe that's once a week for you. And then you can go to twice a week. Or maybe it's just short content to start. But what matters here is getting in the game. And as you are consistent and as long as you just don't give up and stick to it, like you might shit the bed to start, pardon my French. But that's like part of the process. If you look at some of these people like Gary Vaynerchuk or Alex Hormozy, right, who are some of the biggest names in business content, if you like scroll back, some of their earlier content sucks. But the difference is they stay in the game long enough, they're consistent where there's an automatically they're going to get better and better and better with their content. And so, what's the classic saying? Done is better than perfect. Momentum is better than perfection to just start. And I think that's kind of another important thing here where I've noticed this with myself and I've also noticed it with clients. If you are consistent, even if you don't always have people liking or commenting on your stuff, people are watching you. They're watching you. And I have people who reach out to me. It's like my inbound leads are coming from this exact strategy that I showed you guys. People will just come out of the blue like, hey, Jig, I saw this, but like they hadn't been commenting on my stuff. I'm like, I want help with my email. Can you hop on a call? And it's like crazy to me because some of these people aren't engaging, but they're watching me. So I think that's really important when you're starting out is like, remember, people are watching even if it doesn't feel like it. Now, I'll give you one last hack. This is just a tool that I've been using and it saved me like so much time. And my friend Chaz, shout out to Chaz, he's an epic operator in the business space, and we hopped on a 1 hour video interview. So it was like a podcast. And I was like, man, I don't want to like spend all this time like editing this whole interview, like finding clips. And so I found this amazing AI video editor called Opus. I uploaded the interview and it automatically cut the interview into like 20 different bits of content. If you've been following me lately, you've been seeing this. And so it saved me so much time. It like auto populates captions, it knew when to only keep my voice. Like it automatically did the clips. Again, similar to like what I've talked about here with Claude and Chat GPT. It's going to get you 80% of the way. You'll still need 20%. But if you're looking for a way to just like get some good content going quick, I can't recommend Opus enough. So obviously, this is just there's only so much I can teach in a workshop and, making it broad and not super specific because there's different people with different products and services here. But I'm here to help if I can be of support at all. And this is sort of what I talked about in the first part of the ACE framework with audience clarity. Like you can't see what you can't see, right? So, and honestly, like I've been subject to this too, and this is where the value of having coaches and people who can help us because it's really hard to see our business and see our target audience when we're so close to it, right? Like you can't see the forest when you're in the trees. So um, that's something where myself or even anyone else, like getting that outside perspective can help you see what you can't see. Of course, your business and offering is unique. So like depending on whether it's a product or service or the price point or the specificity of your assets, like the strategy will be different. And so I do want to set you up for success. And so anyone who's watching this, if you have a business, you're doing at least 20K per month and you know that you need to be leveling up your content, and you know that you're leaving money on the table, whether that's email, whether that's something in your funnel or just your content, here you can book a free email and content audit with me. So I will look at your entire funnel from entry point, whether you're running ads or not, all the way to conversion, look at your content, see what's converting, what's not converting. And, from there, if you want to work with me, amazing. If not, also amazing. And you're going to have me poke holes in your funnel and show you exactly where you're losing money and where conversions are dropping off. So it's really a win-win. And you can either just take a picture of this QR code here. You can, I guess you won't have access to that link, but you can also message me and we can set up that time for you. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this was valuable. And again, as I was sharing before, like if there's one thing I could just convey is, you know, just start, just start, put yourself out there. The only way to improve and get better is just to start.